Hi, it's the Irish Gypsy here to bring you your July 2017 mid-month readings. Thank you so much for joining us here today and welcome to any newcomers. The thank yous first, always. Thank you for your likes, your shares, your subscribes, your support, feedback, and comments. You guys are brilliant. Keep them coming. I sometimes see subscribers say that, Maggie never comments on any of the comments, and I rarely ever do. I just don't have the time to because there's so many of them both on the channel itself and in email. Although I do try to respond to some of the ones that people take the time to send an email, but I just don't have the time. But I do read 99%, if not 100%, because they come right through to my phone. So I do read all the comments. So please keep them coming. I do love reading them. Thank you to my regular clients as well for your consistent feedback and how our readings continue to play out in your lives. I love getting updates from my clients. I love being part of the unfolding chapters of your life for those for whom I read for you personally. And just a general thank you to those of you who continue to keep me so busy with personal one-on-one readings, which I love. It's an honor, a blessing, and a privilege to read for you. Thank you. And if any of you are interested in a personal reading with me and you haven't read with me before, you can click on the About or Description button on my YouTube channel's homepage, and that'll give you a little more information and also has my email address. You can email me directly at Maggie1McGuire@gmail.com. I would be delighted to work with you. I do a wide variety of readings, and I do readings full-time 6 days a week. This is what I do. So turnaround time is pretty quick. I'm usually able to get back with you within the same day that you email me. And time for personal readings, live or recorded, is anywhere from a few days upwards of 2 weeks, but almost always within a 2-week period of time we can set something up for you. So email me if you're interested and we'll go from there. So these are general readings, and there's many of you watching, thousands of you watching, so of course they're not going to resonate the same, mean the same thing for everybody watching. I mean, that's impossible. It just couldn't work out that way. So check your rising and your moon sign videos as well, particularly if, this one doesn't resonate for you. You may find that one of the other ones plays out more predictably for you, or just gives you additional insight and clarification. So try to watch all three if you know them and if you can. There's lots of websites out there for free that will give you your rising and moon sign signs, but I think you have to know your birth time for that. So do the best you can. It just gives you, watching all three gives you just a more clear and cohesive picture of what's going on in your life for the time frame that the reading covers. These are the July mid-month readings. Even though I am recording them in the first half of July, they are for the second half of July. So I will be drawing 2 cards for each of the remaining 2 weeks of July, with an additional 5th card from the bottom of the deck for overall energy and guidance. This reading is for the fire sign of Aries. Aries, the ram, the restless ones, the babies of the zodiac. We say that, babies of the zodiac, because it's the youngest constellation in the sky, but also often Aries in an energetic zodiac way. They are the youngest, learning the most, and sometimes can be quite restless. They are the adventurers. So let us see what the last half of July 2017 has in store for our Aries, the fire sign of Aries, July 2017, mid-month Aries. Oop, almost tipped over my computer. Okay, Aries. We begin with the 7 of Wands, accompanied by the Knight of Wands, fire energy, the 5 of Wands, followed by the Devil, and from the bottom of the deck, your overall energy and guidance is the 5 of Swords. So lots of fire energy with a little air, and 1 major arcana card. Okay, Aries, let's begin. So we find ourselves around the middle of July 2017, time being somewhat fluid, of course, with the energy of the 7 of Wands, followed by the Knight of Wands. So the suit of wands, wands is fire energy. That's the element which governs this suit. And in the tarot, the suit of wands it's a very fiery, dynamic, action-oriented suit, very forward-moving. It's all about change, movement, action, power. It can often point to things like career, artistic or creative endeavors, because the suit of wands, the fire energy, it's creative energy, building, manifesting energy, kind of putting the action to the idea to flesh something, begin to flesh something out into reality. It's a very action-oriented, dynamic suit. The Seven of Wands is a card primarily of defensive energy. Sometimes this can represent being too defensive, and I am getting that for some of you, so you want to be vigilant and guard against that. It may not be necessary to be too defensive. But this card can represent standing up for yourself, standing up for somebody else, protecting, guarding, defending something you feel very strong in, perhaps something you have a sense of ownership about because of how much you have invested in it. It could be defending an idea or a belief system you feel very strongly about, an injustice you feel very strongly about, or it could represent an actual property, home, a job, defending something, a project that you feel very strongly about because how much you've invested into it. So it's accompanied by the Knight of Wands. So knights are the bringers, the deliverers of the tarot. When you think about the roles of knights in medieval times, they were their whole purpose was around missions and quests to deliver results. And they could sometimes be very fanatical, obsessive, very single-minded and focused because they had a mission, a quest to accomplish, and nothing was going to get in their way, and they were not going to come back until they came back with results. You know, whether that was, you know, rescuing a princess, slaying a dragon, you know, finding the lost ark, something of that sort. So knights are the deliverers. So typically when you see knights, they represent an offer, an opportunity coming into you. Sometimes it's you extending one out, but more often it's about an offer or opportunity, something in front of you, which you have to make a decision about. They can also represent, the knights can also represent the speed at which a situation moves, and this would be very fast moving because out of all four of the knights, all of the knights tend to be rather spontaneous and impulsive by nature, but since the Knight of Wands is governed by fire, he is the fastest of all knights, the most impulsive and spontaneous. So for some of you, this can represent a fast-moving situation. For some of you, this Knight of Wands is going to represent you. It is a court card, and court cards can often, not always, but often represent actual people. This could be you because you are a fire sign. It could be another fire sign that's playing a significant role. Somebody you're defending, or somebody you're defending for, or somebody you're defending against. Another Aries, Leo, or Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, or Rising, or someone who strongly manifests the character traits of the Knight of Wands. So Seven of Wands paired with the Knight of Wands. There could be, okay, interesting. I think I got this for Taurus as well. So some of you have found yourself in a situation kind of out of the blue very quickly. The situation has come in and it may be moving very quickly as well. You're in a position where you have to defend yourself or justify yourself. I feel like I feel like I did get this for Taurus too. It's interesting. Maybe there's a crossover there. Some of you have been put in a position where you've been accused of something, or there's rumor, gossip, slander going on around you, or you've been actively accused of something. So you've been put in a position where you have to defend yourself or justify yourself somehow. For some of you, there's a situation which has come in which you are being very defensive about. And for those of you for whom that resonates, it's with another person or perhaps a group of people, and I'm getting the sense that, especially verbally, you're being very defensive about something, unnecessarily defensive. So you'll want to kind of watch out for that. Be vigilant about that. There's a way you can defend yourself, justify yourself, explain things without being too defensive, because it has a tendency to kind of close off the ears and make a situation worse or more volatile. So I do feel like some of you, there's a situation that's come in with another person or a group of people, and you've just kind of jumped the gun and being very defensive, and it's not necessary. So you may want to back off and take a cooler approach, kind of look at things before your mouth kind of gets the better of you. So kind of, I mean, forewarned is forearmed. That's one of the reasons we do these readings, so that we can kind of have a look ahead and lessen or even reverse some of this energy or situation. So be careful about, you can defend without being overly aggressive in defending as well. But some of you are in a position where you have to defend yourself against accusations or slander that's untrue, or the truth of it, excuse me, has been twisted somehow. For some of you, this is, some of you, you're defending an actual project or idea of some kind. I feel like some of you, you may be in a contest or a competition of some kind. It could be a physical contest or competition, like a sporting kind of thing, or it could be something, you know, something more cerebral. I mean, there's a lot of you watching, so the specifics will play out very differently for all of you, but the energy fundamentally remains the same. Some of you, you're in some kind of competitive situation where you're competing against other people, and that's where this defensive energy is coming from. Very fast-moving energy as well. So moving on, around the last week or so of July 2017, maybe going into a little bit of the beginning of August, we have the Five of Wands followed by the Devil. So the Five of Wands. The Five of Wands is a competitive card, and it's right next to the Seven of Wands too. So for some of you, this is actual competition, a contest, a competition of some kind. It can be for an actual prize or reward, or it can just be for the purpose of getting better at your skills, improving skills. You can see that these five men are competing with each other, but it's just practice. The weapons are practice weapons. They're sparring. They're not out for blood or anything. It can represent competition, or it can represent, competition to win something, or competition or a contest. That's really for the purposes of improving your skill. That's why you're competing against each other. The Five of Wands can also and often does represent conflict too, internal or external conflict, because for some of you this is conflict with another person or within a group of people. With a group of people, you're having to defend and justify something against or even with a group of people as well. Some of you, it's just competitive energy. But for those of you for whom this represents conflict, again, be careful of letting your mouth get the better of you, of being too defensive, too aggressive about it. The Five of Wands represents conflict, can represent conflict energy, but for those of you for whom that resonates with another person or a group, this is petty energy, petty squabbling, circular arguments, nobody winning, nobody losing, but no answers or solutions either, just going around and around and around again, like a dog chasing its own tail. And the whole purpose of engaging in a conflict with another person, or a fair argument or whatever, is to achieve a positive outcome. And you can't do that if you're being too defensive, too aggressive, or too petty about it, because everyone's so focused on winning or being right that nobody actually wins. There's no positive solution. So kind of guard against that. Maybe tamp down some of this fire energy, and kind of think before you speak energy is what I'm getting as well, because for those of you for whom it's conflict energy, it does seem a bit on the petty side. Some of you, though, it's not petty. This is some of you for whom you're defending yourself or somebody else or an idea or a belief system. It's very important. You feel very strongly about it because how much you have invested in it, or just the injustice of it. And it's not really petty at all. And this conflict energy just represents that it's conflict with another person or a group of of people. Now, the Five of Wands is accompanied by the Devil card, a major arcana card. I don't like seeing this card for you. It represents imbalance, temptations, extremes, addictions, obsession. It can represent unhealthy relationships, too much power and control, obsessive neediness. It can represent, addictions, like conventional addictions like drugs, alcohol, sex, gambling, shopping, etc. Obsessive fanatical energy, strong temptations, going to extremes, basically fundamentally imbalanced. Too much attention and focus in one area to the detriment, exclusion, and just general unhealthiness in other areas. Energy being back and forth, up and down. For some of you, for whom this is conflict energy with another person or a group, it's not something truly, truly important. I feel like there's a strong chance that it's a small situation which could really end up getting blown out of proportion because people are speaking without really thinking first, the heat of the moment, emotions are getting out of control. For some of you, this is a situation which could be kept small and solved in a smaller, easier way, but the temptation is to just be too defensive, to just speak without thinking, and actually blow the situation kind of out of extremes. For some of you, in the last half of July, and this has probably been an ongoing problem, some of you, there is some kind of addiction problems, regardless of the nature of that addiction. And this is the end of July. It looks like something is coming to a head, and it really is time to address this issue, to end this addiction, whatever it is, even to get help if you need to, therapy, counseling, or even going into a rehab program for those of you for whom it's like drugs or alcohol kind of issue. That's something that needs to be addressed as well. It could be that an addiction problem is causing a lot of chaos, stress, and strife and conflict within a relationship, a marriage, or it also could be a friendship as well, but it's really affecting the relationship in a very unhealthy way. It looks like something's coming to a head and really needs to be addressed. So your overall energy and guidance is the Five of Swords. So swords is air energy. It's mental, cerebral, intellectual energy. It's all about what goes on up in our heads, how we look at things, our perspectives, perceptions, belief system, ideas, words, and how that affects how we communicate. Words, ideas, and communication. Swords can also represent it's a mental, cerebral, intellectual energy. Excuse me. It can also represent, swords is also about truth, reality, illumination, clarity, insight. Also can represent higher education and learning. The Five of Swords is technically a card of victory. I say technically because sometimes it can represent a victory which, well, it's a victory which comes at a cost, and it can represent a victory or a battle that really takes a lot out of you. You can see that this man has completed, just finished a battle or a challenge of some kind, and he's obviously the victor. His opponents or foes or enemies are on the ground behind him. They're defeated. He's gathered up their weapons, and he's holding his own aloft in victory. But just the general atmosphere of the card, he doesn't look particularly victorious. He's tired, worn out, exhausted. He's bleeding from a little cut on his forehead. This is a battle which has cost a lot. It's come at a cost. It's taken a lot out of him. And sometimes the people on the ground can represent that it's a victory which comes at the cost of personal relationships. And the question which always accompanies the Five of Swords is it worth it? Particularly if this is something small or petty, something that gets blown out of proportion, you may end up winning or coming out on top, but it may cost you a relationship. So I think for some of you, you're just going to have to be very careful the last half of July. Any arguments or conflicts, think about this reading and really take time to think about what you say before you say it, because things could potentially get out of control. You could end up coming out on top, but it may have cost you a relationship of some kind, or a set of relationships, or a a group of friends or something. Sometimes it's not always important to be right. It can be about picking your battles wisely. Now, for some of you, again, this is a worthwhile fight. It's worth putting your all into, and coming out on top and winning may mean that you lose a particular relationship or a set of relationships, but because it's about honor and integrity and what's right, it's worth the cost of that. For others of you, it's not worth it. It's winning or being right is not worth it if it comes at the cost of personal relationships. It really just depends on which Aries you are and what situation this is. You'll know who I'm talking about. Just be careful about going to extremes, particularly in the last half of July, particularly in any conflicts or arguments with another person or a group of people or friends. This could be in personal relationships. It could be job, work, and career. It could be with friends as well. Again, just kind of watch your speech, watch how you communicate, watch being too spontaneous and impulsive and blowing things out of proportion. And if the argument or the base of the conflict is not really that important, some battles are not. Some battles come up, they're opportunities for battles, but they're not always worth fighting, because winning is not really always worth it. So just keep that in mind moving forward, Aries. So Aries, that pretty much wraps up your July 2017 reading. I hope you have enjoyed it. I hope that it's given you some insight and clarity. I think for some of you, this is going to be very valuable when you get to the last half of July, or whenever this occurs, or in or around that time. You'll remember this, and I think it will, for some of you, could potentially lessen or negate whatever it is that's going on. So it'll be interesting to get feedback as this plays out for those of you for whom it resonates. So thank you very much for watching it, Aries. I will see you all again in a couple of weeks for the August general readings. Although you will likely see a different background, I will be in Europe for the next couple of months. Still posting, still working with clients. But the background will not be my home background, so it'll be interesting to kind of do that. I love working while I travel as well, and I'm blessed enough to be able to do that. Again, if any of you are interested in a personal one-on-one reading with me and you haven't read with me before, you can click on the About or Description button on my YouTube channel's homepage for more information, and my email address, which is Maggie1McGuire@gmail.com. I would be most happy to work with you. Until I see you again, Aries, as always, I wish you joy, peace, blessings, and a happy life. And I hope to see you back here again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.